Everybody, welcome to the November meeting of South Kesteven District Council Cabinet. I'm Ashley Baxter. I'm the leader of the council and chairman of this committee. I have alongside me to my left my deputy leader and vice chairman, Councillor Paul Stokes, and to my right I have Karen Bradford, our chief executive, and we've got James Wellborn, who is the Democratic Services Manager and Deputy Monitoring Officer. Please ensure your mobile phones are switched off or turned to silent. I have not been notified of the fire alarm today, so if the fire alarm does sound, please leave by the nearest available exit, which is probably the one in the back corner, and assemble in front of this building on the green outside on St Peter's Hill. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment, can I request you indicate by raising your hand? Welcome to everybody who's attending this meeting who is not a cabinet member, whether that's staff or backbenchers or anybody else, press people. The meeting is being recorded and will be able to be watched as a live stream, or it can be chased up afterwards on the Public Eye website or through the SKDC YouTube channel. We will now make our way through today's agenda. First of all, we have a public open forum. Do we have anyone planning to ask us any questions?
Thank you, Leader. No one's registered to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any apologies for absence? I know that we have apologies from Rhys Baker, who is poorly today, so get well soon, Rhys. Do we have any other apologies? No, the rest of us are here. Do we have any disclosures of interest? I'm looking towards Phil Dilks.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I am on the Ageing Society agenda item. May I declare I am the chairman of Age Concern Deepings. It is not a pecuniary interest, and I intend to speak and support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other declarations of interest? No, thank you. Welcome, Councillor Kelly. Now we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Rayside.
Shall I declare an interest as the Vice Chair of Planning for Stamford Town Council?
We'll consider it declared. I don't believe it's a pecuniary interest, but it is useful to have that out in the open, no doubt. So the minutes of the previous meeting, does anybody have any comments on any of the content? There's quite a lot of it today, page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Any comments on the accuracy? If not, then can I propose that they are a true and accurate record with a seconder from Councillor Rayside? All those in favour of accepting the minutes? All those against? And all those abstentions? That's fine. I believe that was unanimous. Tell me if it wasn't. Good. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is entitled Extension of Stamford Cattle Market Car Park. That's Councillor Cleaver to introduce.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. The purpose of this report, Cabinet, is to seek delegation to the Deputy Chief Executive to appoint a contractor to undertake the proposed extension of works to Cattle Market Car Park in Stamford. The Cattle Market site is the town's primary long-stay car park, located on the south side of the town, a short walk over the meadows and the River Welland from the main town centre. The car park extends 275 parking spaces at the moment, plus a further 15 disabled spaces. Following a car parking study earlier this year by Tetra Tech, support was shown for the need for additional parking within the town. It's proposed that an extension of the existing car park will be undertaken on the former cattle market building site, which will comprise 146 parking spaces, of which 11 will be accessible, and there will be the ability to provide up to 8 EV charging points. The Council's Planning Committee will be considering the application for the extension at its meeting this week on the 7th, and the delegation will only be enacted subject to planning approval being granted at that meeting. Tender documentation has been prepared, and it is intended that the project will go out to open tender this month, subject to planning permission being granted, with the intention of work commencing early in the new year. A capital budget of £550,000 is already in place to deliver this project. It has already been approved by all the relevant parts of this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleaver. Do any Cabinet members have any comment on this report? If not, I'll ask Councillor Morgan.
Yes, thank you. Because I'm actually Chair of Planning, I'm just going to excuse myself for this item, just for the public interest.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask someone to call you back in when we're finished talking about it. So, this is a delegation to the Deputy Chief Executive and Section 151 officer. We've had many conversations about parking over the last 18 months, and even more over the last, say, 18 years. I think we've had many car park reviews. It's, as we said last time when we talked about the parking order, the changes to the fees and the parking order, it's good to see positive things. You will remember from last time round that we are planning to have free parking, if I remember rightly, free parking in Grantham and Stamford on Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays in December to encourage people to do their shopping at a less busy time. We also have rearranged the parking fees in order to encourage people to park, encourage people to use our brilliant independent shops in the towns. But on this particular thing, it's a much needed extension to the capital market car park and includes disabled spaces and EV spaces. So does anybody wish to second this item or to add further comment? Councillor Rayside?
I'm happy to second, but to add a comment, yesterday we attended the tourism event in Stamford, the business, to encourage businesses to come on board and work with South Kesteven to develop our town and improve our economy. One of the interesting comments that a gentleman made was, it's fine that we're doing this, but especially in an area like Stamford, we have two issues: accommodation and we need more parking. So I think this is excellent that we're bringing this forward.
Thank you for those supportive comments. You will see that attached to the report is the South Kesteven parking study, which was at one stage confidential and is now in the public domain, which talks about the various occupancy rates at within the four towns, and it's probably the right time to say that we haven't forgotten about this. With a review of parking in our parking reviews will go on, and encouraging trade in the towns. So, on the proposal as put forward by Councillor Cleaver, we've got a second to Councillor Rayside. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. We now move on to the South Kesteven Shopfront Design Guide. Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my pleasure to present this report to you on the revised and important updated South Kesteven Shopfront Design Guide. It is the first update and revision in almost 20 years, so it is very timely. As you know, our corporate plan highlights the importance of maintaining the historic and built environment of our district within both the connecting communities and enabling economic opportunity priorities. And we're not just talking about Stamford here, of course, which is the country's first ever conservation area. As well as Stamford, the town centres of Grantham, Bourne and Market Deeping all now have designated conservation areas, which highlights the importance of their special character and historic value. Many retail properties within the town centres are listed buildings and as such are under a higher level of legal protection. I would stress that carrying out unauthorised works to a listed building is an offence which may result in prosecution. Despite this, many business owners are not aware or don't seem to be aware of the relevant guidelines and planning regulations which relate to shop fronts. Our council currently has these shop front design guides for Bourne, Stamford and Grantham, not for Market Deeping, which are accepted as supplementary planning documents and have material consideration in planning decisions. The most recent, as I say, of these guides was produced 19 years ago, in 2005. I would like to thank the Council's Conservation Officers and Economic Development team working under Claire Saunders, who have worked together to update the design guide to reflect current planning legislation, policy and advice. The guide actually includes special considerations, or these special considerations, which we have in each of our 4 towns. It also builds on the experience of the experience that our officers have developed in the delivery of shopfront regeneration programmes in the district, and also seeks to provide information as many of the common questions asked by business owners through the duration of that work. The document brings together guidance for all 4 towns into one document, ensuring it's clearer and more straightforward for all shop owners to access the relevant information and make informed design decisions. I would say if any shop owner is in any doubt at all, they should contact the council as to see what's acceptable and what's recommended, and you know, what's most appropriate if they are making alterations. I'm also pleased to say that we've received a letter from Stamford Civic Society in particular, welcoming the moves that we as a council are making to preserve the heritage and ambience of our town centres that are protected by conservation status. I'm pleased to recommend to the Cabinet, as printed in the agenda, the recommendations that we approve the adoption of the draft design guide as outlined as a technical document with material consideration for planning decisions, and that we endorse the use of the guide as a guidance document to support delivery of the soon-to-be launched UK SBF funded shopfront maintenance grant. I would add, if I may, that I think this guide should be reviewed not in 20 years' time, but probably a couple of years. So I would like to recommend an additional recommendation that it is reviewed in 18 months' time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Does any Cabinet member wish to comment on this? Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Dilks, for introducing the item. Obviously, speaking partly as a Stamford councillor as well as a Cabinet member, I'm very aware of the sensitivity of the issue in Stamford. People are very concerned that there is appropriate signage and shop fronts that are in keeping with the look and feel of Stamford, and that is correctly and properly preserved. I have just one little issue with the drafting of this, because it is an issue that I hear about quite a lot, and it is an issue which appears in some ways to be slightly inconsistent in what we see in the town at the moment, and that is illuminated signage which is inside shop window displays as opposed to illuminated signage which is outside. So I would, with your permission, like to propose a slight amendment to the wording on page 29. At the moment it reads as follows: illuminated signage is unlikely to be considered suitable, and this may also extend to illuminated signage as part of shop window displays. I would like to change the words this may also extend to the word includes, so that that sentence will read: illuminated signage is unlikely to be considered suitable, and this includes illuminated signage as part of shop window displays, because I think it's quite clear that a number of shop owners are using heavily illuminated and inappropriately bright advertisements inside shop windows in garish colours, which clearly wouldn't be allowed on the outside of the building. It's a loophole, and I hope that we can close it as far as we possibly can. So I'd like to propose that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I might be minded to second it, although I appreciate the comments from Mrs. Whittaker regarding the possible effect of that. As I understand what you've said, it would mean that illuminated signage is unlikely to be considered suitable, including illuminated signage within the display. I can see that. I'll take you, Councillor Moran, before I ask Mrs. Whittaker if that's okay.
Yeah, I just want to say I very much welcome this guide, as it's obvious from the paperwork, market deeping has never had, or certainly doesn't at the moment, have a guide on their conservation area properties and how they should be decorated. And we've certainly suffered from it, and suffer from it now with various shops which are completely inappropriate for a conservation area. What I'd like to ask in the special considerations for market deeping, if the paragraph that Councillor Cleaver highlighted in the Stamford special considerations can also be put into the market deeping considerations in exchange for the last paragraph. So if we could amend the rules, as it were, on illumination, if that could be put on market deeping as well, please.
Thank you. I would be minded to support that, but if you want to make any comment, Mrs. Whittaker, would appreciate it before we make I don't want to make a bad decision. I hope it's a good decision.
Thank you, Chairman. I think advertisement consent is a tricky one, and I completely recognise that there's a lot of rules out there. Not everybody gets it right in terms of shopkeepers, and I definitely would echo Councillor Dilks's comments that please do come and talk to us first before you paint your shop front or do whatever it is, because it's a challenge to navigate. In terms of advertisement consent, it's its own consenting regime, which is slightly separate from the shop fronts, which may require planning permission, list of building consent. Internal illuminated advertisements, and that's assuming it is an advertisement, because I am aware of a particular site in Stamford where it wasn't, there was a concern over something which was quite brightly illuminated, and it turned out to be an item for sale and not an advertisement. But where it is internal and it's illuminated, it's deemed consent, and that means it does not require consent from the council. So we can say that we would discourage it and that we would not welcome that, but we can't prevent it unless we go down the route of serving discontinuance notices after the event. And the issue with that is we have to prove, probably working with environmental protection, that there's some kind of nuisance or harm to amenities. So I'm not sure it's as simple as saying that we would not give consent, because I think in the majority of instances consent is not required from the council. I'm not sure if that helps.
It helps a little bit, and at risk of going down a rabbit hole, it's kind of how you define an advert. Because if I run a chip shop and I've got a big neon sign that says open, flashing away all the time that I'm open, is that an advert or is that signage?
I think that probably would fall in the definition of advert, signage, advertisement for the purposes of the advertisement consenting regime, and therefore we could look at that. But if it's something else, and I know there's a lot of challenges around in relation to, say, barbers' poles, for example, I think, just thinking on the top of my head, it might be better if perhaps There could be something amended in the delegation or in the resolution to the committee to perhaps delegate this matter to myself and to the portfolio holder to come up with some suitable wording, perhaps just to sort of cover this, but to make sure we're not straying into any dangerous territories in terms of indicating that we refuse, or we would say these things are not acceptable if they don't require consent in the first place.
Yes, yes. Personally, I've been down this road with officers to try and establish when is an advert not an advert, and it seems that you can have all this stuff about conservation areas, but then on somebody's whim you can have a dirty great sign saying just eat or available online or whatever, which desecrates the conservation area and kind of defeats the point of the planning in the first place. But that's my opinion. Certainly an amendment around delegation would be welcome, and I would also add into that amendment that we also say something about typos and wording, because there's a horrific foreign spelling of colour in here. There's also some missing punctuation and so on. But Paul, I think Paul's. Oh, Phil, you're next apparently.
Oh, not Phil. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I think the consideration to be proposed is probably the best thing, and I would request that it extends itself to Bourne as well as Deepings and Stamford, and I would like to think that any consideration of that nature would take into account the views of the local town councils, because I know that they tackle this problem from time to time in their planning discussions, and so consultation with the local town is appropriate in this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. So that seems a fairly clear steer. That I mean, I don't think that Grantham would object. That so instead of being a special consideration, that thing about illuminated internal signage, which is not an advert, gets treated the same way in all towns. So Councillor Stokes.
Yeah, you've headed me off there, Chairman. I was going to say to retain the parochial element that Grantham should also be in that category, so it's all 4 towns. Apart from that, I just wanted to say that what we've got to remember is there's such a vast array of shop fronts, and to bring together something all-encompassing takes an awful lot of work, and I would like to compliment the portfolio holder and the team that have put this document together. I think it's an excellent document. We've got some, we mustn't err on the negative, we've got some fantastic shop fronts throughout the district, particularly in Grantham. I think there's been some superb work in Grantham on shop fronts, and I think we should compliment the team on what they've done and not look at the minority items that may need amending, and we've already proposed looking at it in 18 months' time, and I think that's a good time to do this work then.
Thank you, Councillor Stokes. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, I do welcome this document. I have got some concerns. I think Mrs Whittaker has touched on them, and that's around the enforceability of these. We have got in Grantham some areas where, for example, the London Road Parade of Victorian shops, which are of great interest to the Victorian society, and believe it or not, I have to say that because you wouldn't know it looking at them in their current state, are actually part of the Grantham Town Centre conservation area. They are in the gateway to Grantham, but what we have there is a plethora of vinyl interior signs, makeshift external signs, banners, which aren't really particularly picked up here, not protruding from the front, but completely covering any original features and often upscale with the actual original shop fronts. We have got directly opposite this building on St Peter's Hill, I've raised it with planning officers, a concern about the mini market and the betting shop next door. Those signs are completely inappropriate for what is a heritage part of our town, and I was basically told there's nothing that can be done about them. So I think behind this, we need some clarity and ensure we include things like those external vinyl banners that are used to cover shop fronts and signage, as well as the internal ones that are referred to specifically in the document. And I'd like to understand how we actually enforce this excellent design guide. And then on the back of that, it's clear there's an issue that we've got shopkeepers who've moved into the area, they've set up their shops, and they've absolutely no idea about what the rules and regulations are. So how are we working with them proactively to educate them? And what support can we as a council give to those shopkeepers who are often just about managing on peppercorn profits, to see how we can support them make the changes we want to see to improve our environment?
Thank you. There's a lot in there. So the first question was about vinyls, which are the scourge of Grantham, really. Councillor Dilks or Emma, do you want to respond? Is this design guide supposed to tackle the issue of vinyls, or if not, what is?
Thank you, Chairman. It's a matter that we're looking at. I can't give you a complete answer at the moment because it's something that we're still investigating with our legal team in terms of actions that we may be able to take. The issue with vinyls is they either don't require consent or they are deemed consent again, so it's not necessarily something that we can just stop from happening. And of course, let's not pretend not all vinyls are inappropriate. I think perhaps the ones that are causing the most concern are the ones with the whole window might be covered in a vinyl as opposed to something a little bit smaller in size. So we are looking at steps and what we may be able to do, if anything, to prevent them in the first place. There are some enforcement powers that we could look at using, such as a discontinuance notice, but again we've got to prove that there is a harm or injustice to the amenity of the area. So it's dealing with something after the event, and it's dealing with something once there is an issue that has arisen. So it's a case of working together to get the evidence. So that's a challenge, but I think perhaps just to leave it at, we are conscious that this is an issue, we are looking at it, and maybe it'll be a further discussion at some point.
Okay, so you appear to be saying that this is not the document where the issue of vinyls is solved, but we are aware and working towards a solution of the issue of vinyls. On Councillor Morgan's point about enforceability, would you like to say something about enforcement?
Absolutely, and in terms of the advertisements and some of the enforcement powers and the prosecutions that we can take there are some sites that we are looking at, and we have had some successes across the district, and I appreciate that like a lot of planning enforcement, it can take a little time to resolve some of those actions. In terms of some of the other elements, then it would fall to the normal planning enforcement powers, and that might be a listed building enforcement if it's a listed building, and I know that we've got a couple of instances within the district where we are looking at shopfront alterations in that respect, and that of course would potentially be a criminal offence because it's works to a listed building without consent. And then the other avenue, if it's not listed, is whether it's a trigger for planning permission and whether that planning permission has been sought and given. So again, that would be a planning enforcement issue. So we do have those tools, we do utilise them, and try and tackle them as they come along. I think that probably takes it quite nicely into sort of the communications issue, and I think perhaps this is something that we do need to perhaps go and speak to the town councils about in particular, and do a communications piece so that we can publicise this. Now we've got the refresh, or hopefully we have the refreshed guidance approved. And again, I would just welcome any comments or questions from residents or shopkeepers. If they are not clear what they want to do first, we offer a pre-application advice service, and we're always happy to give that advice so somebody can get that advice before they undertake the expense of doing something and perhaps potentially falling foul of the rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you also to you and to Phil and to your team for putting this together, because it is, as Councillor Stokes says, an excellent document, and although I might sound nitpicky about the typos or whatever, the content is for the most part great. Councillor Harrison, do you agree?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Stokes stole my thunder, really. He pretty much said what I was going to say. It's, I welcome this. My ward in particular has benefited greatly from this, definitely smartering a lot of the area up. I would just ask, though, that we follow up on a couple of these, such as the building opposite the Angel and Royal, the Ad Action building that's not quite finished and stuff like that, which sort of takes the shine off the wonderful work that's been done throughout the town. So that would be good if somebody could do that for us.
Thank you, and that also reminds me that aside from the guidance, we have, as a council, done loads of work through the Future High Street Fund and previous iterations of that on the shop fronts generally. So the Westgate and High Street, parts of it are looking better. I don't want to go back to the 1890s, but in some ways, some of those shop fronts do look great. I've got Anna next on my list.
Lovely, thank you. I just wanted to say I can imagine what a nightmare the vinyls must be for the planning department, because so many shops use vinyls as seasonal decoration on their windows. So is it going to be a matter of those that are temporary and those that are permanent? So I can see that can be something that's going to be very difficult. My actual question was about, is there a definition of a shop? And I mean that because there are lots of buildings on our high streets that were not shops, e.g. banks. And now we have a bank in Bourne that is turned into a printing premises. So there are lots of things going on in the windows there. And also on our main street we have a garage who has all sorts of illuminated signs. So at what point does the word shop stop being defined? Also, coffee bars, are they shops? Do these rules apply? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. That seems like a reasonable question, and I'm sure either Councillor Bilks or Emma, when is a shop not a shop?
So I think to answer those questions, the banks, the coffee shops and the retail units would all fall within the definition of what we're talking about here. They all fall in planning terms in the same use class or the same sort of family of use class. So all of the above would be a shop front for the purposes of the guide. Thank you.
Smashing, thank you. Is that A1 or B2 or something?
It used to be A1, A2, A3, A4 and 5, but it's now use class E, so it's been somewhat simplified. So, but yes, it would fall in that same use class.
So, in answer to your question, Councillor Kelly, it's as defined by the relevant legislation. Charmaine, you've said something already. Can you be brief, please?
The reason I'm coming back is because it didn't get an answer to my last point. To be fair, I had a few, and that was regarding any support we have for the shopkeepers. I do welcome the support that's gone into Grantham's Market Square area and Councillor Harrison's ward. I'm afraid I can't say the same for St Vincent's ward, which the London Road Parade of Shops falls into. It has, for at least 10 years, we've put requests in for it to be involved in shopfront schemes, and it hasn't. So I'm just wondering at what point we will be doing that, and how shopkeepers can tie into that, please.
I'm going to, so we're we've had shop front. Are we talking about financial assistance for shop front?
To improve them, which is what's happened in the Market Square area, for example, to really good effect, but it's not happening in other parts of the town.
Okay, as I understand it, the Future High Street Fund was specific to a geographical area, and that would be why the shops further out, unfortunately, would miss out on that funding. Yes, and also, that's not what we're talking about at the moment. We're talking about a shop front design guide. So if you want to pick that up with either Councillor Dilks or Councillor Cleaver, I guess, around that, then feel free, yes. Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this? Oh, Councillor Dilks.
Well, just to sum up, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for their comments. This is a step forward. You know, it hasn't been updated for 19 years, as I said, and it needs updating, and that's what we've done. I think it's a step forward. I think we can review it in 18 months and see, you know, how this has gone. But frankly, there's not a lot new in this. It's actually been bringing the stuff together of what was already in there to make it actually clearer. I would hope that shop owners, whether banks and cafes and others, will actually read it online and have a look. I would stress that, as has been said a couple of times, unauthorised works to a listed building in a conservation area may result in prosecution. We as a council don't wish to take those if we can actually avoid it, but we will if it comes to the crunch, if I could put it that way. This is about common sense, and it is about preserving the heritage across South Kesteven, particularly in our conservation areas, of course. So I'll stop there and propose the recommendations as I earlier outlined. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, to be clear, I understand that you are proposing the two items which are put down as recommendations on the sheet, that we will recommend that the shopfront design guide be reviewed in 18 months' time. And then, James, do you have a summary of the third, more complicated recommendation?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest a fourth recommendation, that you delegate the final wording, because I understand it's related to specifically illuminated signage in the four towns. So if you delegate the final wording related to illuminated signage to the Assistant Director for Planning and Growth, Emma, in consultation with the portfolio holder.
Okay, so delegated to the Assistant Director of Planning, the portfolio holder, and that relates to particularly the illuminated signage issue, and also minor typographical and punctuation amendments. Okay. Do we have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Stokes. All those in favour? All those against? No abstentions. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. That was a good debate. Market Deeping Cemetery Public Spaces Protection Order. Councillor Rayside, please.
Thank you, Lena. Before I start, I'd like to thank Aisha for putting this report together. I know PSPO is your favourite. To give a little background, public space protection orders were introduced by the Anti-Social Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014 to deal with problems in specific areas that are detrimental to the local community's quality of life, by imposing conditions on the use of that area, which apply to everyone. They are intended to help ensure that the law-abiding majority can use and enjoy a public space safe from antisocial behaviour. They can apply to any public space. The definition of public space is wide, and it includes any space to which the public or any section of the public has access. This new PSPO, if approved, will require people to always keep their dog on a fixed lead. whilst in the Spinning Market Deeping Cemetery. This PSPO was in order prior to October 2023. However, due to an admin oversight, this order was not extended. A 4-week public consultation was undertaken from the 31st of July 2024 to the 28th of August 2024. The draft orders, which are subject to consultation, are at Appendix 1, with the associated plan in Appendix 2. The full description, the full detail of the consultation, a list of the consultees, and a breakdown of the responses can be found at Appendix 3. In total, we received 33 responses. Of those 33 responses, the consultations asked a specific question: are you happy for the PSPO to be reinstated? And out of those 33 responses, 3/4 of them agreed to have the proposal, the public space protection order, reinstated. Just to add a few other points, I know that previously on our last public space protection order, the 1 meter lead was a bit of a debate. However, I'm still quite firm that it should be 1 meter based on the area that it is because of the cemetery next door. I'd like to emphasize also that we rely on the intelligence of the date, time, and location, and a more collective form of evidence. If it's just a person or the dog, then we can't do much with it. So the information provided to us so that we can do enforcement is key. Just to let the Cabinet know, we've finished the questions for the consultation for dogs on lead, and Debbie's not here today to provide us with the date. However, it should be before the end of November. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on this? I was kind of expecting that. Oh, sorry, you want to come back, Councillor?
Yes, I meant to also add that this order came about by Councillor Virginia Moran previously, so I'm sure she'll have some comments for us. Thank you.
Do you have any comments, Councillor Moran?
Yeah, I was actually on Market Deeping Town Council in charge of Town Hall and Cemeteries at the time that this original order was asked for. The spinney, whilst it's part of the cemetery, in practice, is not part of the cemetery legally. And it's an area, it's a wooded area which is, has been carefully underplanted, and it's used for the scattering of ashes. As opposed to, we have a regulation in the cemetery itself that dogs should be kept absolutely closely on a lead because of incidents with dog fouling, inappropriate dog fouling within the cemetery. So it's a natural walkthrough for people through the cemetery, through the spinney, and then through to some open land which people can, dogs can run about on it if they want. So I was a bit dismayed that it had been allowed to lapse, and I'm very glad that it's coming back. So it's obviously got my full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? Councillor Morgan.
Oh, sorry. As a dog owner, I must declare I'm a dog owner.
You don't have to declare you're a dog owner.
I will.
I'm only looking for comments that are related to the spinning and Market Deeping.
Yeah. What does concern me, we've got a member of the public who's actually cited actual evidential support for a concern around the 1 metre lead length. He refers to both the RSPCA and legislation Schedule 2 of the Countryside and Rights of Way Act. I thought the comment made by Councillor Moran was interesting because she's talking about keeping dogs closely on a lead, and to me that actually makes more sense in the sense that if a 6-foot man is holding a has a Yorkshire Terrier, they would be literally hanging the dog on a 3
Yes. So we're back to the issue of Councillor Harrison and his Chihuahua. I don't know if he's ever taken it to market. This is a what do you call it? A hypothetical Chihuahua, which is the worst kind. So we had this conversation some time ago. I think that if the issue were to be enforced, then I don't think anyone in the right mind would say that lead is a metre and a half, and it should be a metre. I think the direction of the order is that people wouldn't be able to say, well, I've got an extendable lead, which is 8 metres, or any length, which would mean that the dog can go and do what it likes while the person carries on. So it's effectively a 1 metre is shorthand for a short lead. Councillor Moran.
If it helps, I believe the term understood by most dog handlers or walkers is to heel, which means either, well, it means that the dog's literally kept next to your heel. So maybe that's a phrase that could be used instead of the 1 metre if you want to take away the 1 metre.
With your indulgence, I would prefer to go ahead with the recommendations as set out by Councillor Rayside, and if it needs reviewing or renewing in 3 years' time, then at that stage we talk about the kind of. We're into almost the semantics of the dog walking. What we don't want is people with 3 metre leads. Mrs. Bradford, Miss. Okay. Aisha, would you be able to add any clarity? Is there anything that we could do at this stage to prevent tall dog walkers with short dogs from being victimised?
Thank you. So the previous PSPO that we had was about by an authorised officer, so it would be put your dog on a lead and then we'd say a safe length. This one would be when you enter that area, you'd have your dog on a lead, and we'd only take enforcement action if we were there to see that there was an offence or we had appropriate evidence. So I think the metre itself was, for that particular area, was because previously dogs had been digging up areas where the ashes had been scattered. So it's more of a respect principle rather than it's not really an area to walk your dog. It's more of an area where you're visiting and stuff. So I'd recommend the metre. But all my officers will take reasonable consideration. So if you have your 6-foot person with a Chihuahua and it's, we wouldn't say one size fits all if it was a reasonable position where you'd say, well, actually, you need 1.5 metres. So we'd use our, common sense.
Common sense. We love common sense. However, James has got the chapter and verse of the last time we did this, so do you want to go ahead, James?
Just specifically on that recommendation on the 10th of September that was agreed, so Cabinet agreed to the use of dog leads which were of a safe length rather than a defined length of 1 metre as determined by officers, which probably summarises what Aisha just said, I think.
So a safe, short length, I think, is what we'd like to say. Excuse me. So you're proposing this, Councillor Rayside, and I think we've. I beg your pardon. Oh, good. So I think what we've decided is that recommendation 3 is that we define the length of the lead as a safe, short length.
Happy with that?
As determined by relevant officers. So, have we got a seconder for this? Oh, sorry, Councillor Knowles.
Thank you. I understand the discussion, I understand the argument, but isn't that bringing a legal question into every arrest or charge or advice given what is a short and safe lead. 1 metre is 1 metre. Short and safe to some people could be 2 or 3 metres, and some people would say we're safe on a 6 metre whatever, because my dog is under control, whatever. It seems to me that we should define it as best we can, rather than in loose terms.
Okay, so I get this. Sorry, do you want to... do you mind if I take... we've got 2 people over here before I come to you, Aisha. So, Councillor Gadd.
The business of dog leads, actually, I can't find it at the moment, but if it's longer than 1.8 metres in length, the dog can be classed as free roaming. And then you come into another issue. So your maximum length should be, I understand, 1.8 metres. So if you say of any length or a suitable length, you may as well, this will not hold up. Somebody will challenge that. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Is it your opinion, Councillor Gadd, that we should say, you're not making this decision, we are, but is it your opinion that it's a short, safe lead or a 1 metre lead?
I think you need to define the length of the lead, but I will say, I can't find it, but I have got it, and it was in the House of Commons actually. Over and above 1.8 metres was defined as free roaming. So that's your maximum length as I understand it. So, but I think you need to legally define the length, a maximum length, not necessarily the shortest length, but by saying a suitable length won't hold up. I'm sure that can be challenged, and you will get challenged if it comes to that.
You appear to be agreeing with Councillor Knowles. So, Councillor Harrison, Councillor Harrison's done. Aisha, I think I'm looking for your... So, first of all, we trust you and your officers to enforce with common sense and sensibleness anyway, but could you advise us whether 1 metre is a sensible level or not?
Thank you, Chairman. So it says on the Public Spaces Protection Order as well that 1 metre in length unless he or she has a reasonable excuse for failing to do so. So that gives us that caveat anyway on those circumstances. So I prefer the metre because it's easier to regulate and control, because this isn't a patrolled area, it's what they have to do all the time.
Okay, great. So I think we're back to where we were in the first place. So the recommendations as put forward, I notice that recommendation 3 is for us to decide. So we as Cabinet would like to confirm that the length of the lead referred to in the order should be 1 metre in length. We've got a seconder? Yes? And all those in favour? Great, thank you. Councillor Harrison, please keep your chihuahua away from the council chamber next time. It only causes trouble, hypothetical or not. Thank you. We move on to Councillor Development Strategy, which is Councillor Knowles to introduce, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Council Development Strategy is extremely important. The objective of the item on your agenda is to approve the strategy document shown as Appendix A. It's very, very important. It is part of our code of practice. It is part of our corporate plan. And our quote from the corporate plan, that we are required to produce and deliver a councillor development strategy and accompanying programme to achieve accredited councillor development status. So that is the objective that we're aiming towards, and this is an important part of that, for fulfilling that part of the corporate plan. Much preparatory work has been completed, and the strategy has been discussed at the newly formed Councillor Development Group, which was again an essential part of fulfilling the strategy, fulfilling the requirement for membership development was to form a councillor group. That has been formed, it has met, and it formally now recommends to this Cabinet that we accept the strategy as it's stated. The strategy includes the aims and purposes, its aims and purposes, its statement of its commitment. There is a mechanism to drive the scheme forward. There's terms of reference for the development group itself, and their associated appendices, a personal development plan pro forma, and also the terms of reference, the councillor roles descriptions. So it is a comprehensive document as it has been proposed by the Council Development Group. I ask for your support, the support of Cabinet, in recommending this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone, please. Thank you. So, first of all, thank you for the work of you and the development group for putting this together. It's very welcome. Can I please ask, just for the benefit of the tape, in the unlikely event of a clash between the Constitution and this development strategy, I assume that the Constitution would take priority in terms of the roles and responsibilities and so on.
At this stage, Leader, yes, it would, I believe. Because obviously the Constitution is agreed and in place already, we've got nothing in place formally for the development strategy at this time. But yeah, for me, the Constitution would be the overarching document that we'd refer to.
Great, thank you. Can I please propose an amendment, the usual one about delegating authority to the relevant Cabinet member in consultation with the monitoring officer in order to make any minor inconsequential amendments, including typographical errors and so on. Oh, I beg your pardon. I meant your staff, no offence, Karen. Can I please ask for an amendment to delegate to the monitoring officer in consultation with the Cabinet member? Not the other way round, of course. So do we have any other comments on this issue? No? In that case, do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Moran. All those in favour? Great, thank you. That was straightforward. Age-friendly communities. You do not need to declare an interest on this if you feel that you are of a significant age. Councillor Rayside.
Thank you, Leader, I think. So to support the Council's corporate ambition to be a thriving district to live, work and visit, it is important that we support every generation of our community to lead healthy, supported lives. The population of South Kesteven is forecast to age significantly. Therefore, it is vital that our council provides its residents with a supportive environment to enable them to grow old comfortably and maintain their independence for as long as possible. I am therefore pleased to recommend to Cabinet that the council registers to become an age-friendly community. This is an initiative developed by the World Health Organization to support residents in later life to live healthy and active lives. The UK network of age-friendly communities is a growing national movement and has the support of the Director of Public Health for Lincolnshire and the Lincolnshire Health and Wellbeing Board. The work to become an age-friendly community also supports the District Council's Health and Wellbeing Strategy, which was adopted by the Council in March of 2023. This is an exciting opportunity for our Council, and if supported, work will begin to undertake a baseline assessment and develop an action plan for all areas of the Council to work together for the benefit of all. Just for some information, the next age-friendly conference is the 22nd of November in Lincoln. To add, as a former member of the World Health Organization, I'm quite pleased to see that this is coming forward. It's obvious we need to take the demographics of our community in consideration. However, proof's in the pudding, and the fact that we're putting it in writing, we're making it a part of our DNA and all the policies that we're going to put forward as every department. I'm quite pleased that we're considering this. Thank you.
Smashing, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I can see Councillor Moran first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, as Cabinet Member for Housing, it's the age of our population is already having an effect on the requirements for social housing. And currently, there's been an increase in the need for one-bedroom accommodation, whether this is widows or widowers, and also in adapted properties, as people are living to a longer age. There's more mobility issues that they have, and I think all of our developments now are including an element of adapted housing. So I think we're ahead of the game here in recognising the changes that are coming about with the population. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dilks.
Thanks, Chairman. I already declared my interest as Chairman of Age Concerned Deepings. I really welcome this initiative. I think hopefully it will be a Lincolnshire-wide initiative, and the other districts will do similar and will join up to this. I think we would all look and say, well, what difference does it make? Well, A, it sends a signal that, you know, we do care about the changing demographic. We are getting older. This, you know, South Kesteven is getting older. And if you look on the report, you know, the statistics are there. We're already 1 in 4 of our population is aged over 65. And in 20 years' time, that is expected to rise to 1 in 3 of our population. So that in itself presents challenges. And what this will do is produce an action plan within 2 years of how this council will play its part in meeting those challenges, and that is important that we do that now. So I fully support this and would be happy to second the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to say that agreeing with the report and the recommendations, that although this council is not responsible for adult social care in the way that the county council is, it's obviously something that affects all of us to one extent or another. Either it affects us personally because of caring responsibilities, or because we fall into that bracket, or because we're all paying more council tax because of the ageing population and the increasing amount of increasing costs of adult social care. Alongside that, I also wanted to say something good about the at the tourism event that we went to yesterday. We were pleased to welcome Aylesbury St James the Great Church representatives, who have just won the UK Church of the Year, which is brilliant for South Kesteven and brilliant for the church, obviously. But one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why they were in the running for UK Church of the Year is because of the work they had done on dementia. They have done a memory project based in the church, looking at the memories of people in the church, and it was led by people suffering dementia and to some extent aimed at people suffering in dementia. And I want to publicly pay tribute to the work they have done in that field, and also obviously the good reputation that they've brought to this community. Having said that, I can see Councillor Dilks again.
I'm sorry to come back, but thank you for allowing me. I just want to say, in this week of remembrance, you know, Remembrance Day on Sunday, of course, it's important to say, you know, just one of the aspects, and it's listed in the report, which tells us that you know, South Kesteven has one of the highest populations, highest proportions of veterans who have served our country in England, and 83%, the vast majority of them, are already over 50. That alone is a challenge ahead as to how you know, we allow those people to live fulfilling lives. Thank you.
Thank you, indeed. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up a point. On 2.5, page 151, we're talking about incidentally, I totally support this paper. But we talk about having workplaces more suitable for people as they get older. But in 2.6, in the last sentence, bottom of the page, we include looking to address transport issues, improving outdoor spaces, and providing volunteering employment opportunities. I believe we should be including unpaid, given that the actual age of retirement now exceeds the age at 65 for many people, unfortunately.
Sorry, Charmaine, I don't understand your question. The paragraph you refer to says providing volunteering and employment opportunities.
I believe the key volunteering employment opportunities. I think we should just make it clear that they're paid, that we don't just expect our people to be working.
Sorry, as I read it, we're providing volunteering opportunities and employment opportunities. I would have read into that that's volunteers who are unpaid and employment opportunities which are paid.
I appreciate, because of the page tone at that point, it could be either way actually, so I'll accept that and withdraw that.
But your comment about we need to give people opportunities to be employed after the conventional historic pension age, I completely. We want everybody in South Kesteven to lead fulfilling lives. As volunteers, as employees, members of families, communities and everything else. Any further comments? Councillor Rayside.
I'd like to thank everyone for the comments across the room and the support that it's received. Recently, which goes back to our previous topic, started a leadership course. And in that leadership course, one of the things that I had to identify are things that I'm passionate about. And one of them was impacting the health of our community. Well, that's really a county council issue. However, what I did identify within further investigation is that there were multiple ways to impact that, whereas housing, mental health, our communications in terms of asking our elderly to stay moving, healthier options and stuff, and various ways. So I'm quite pleased that there's support across the room in supporting this, because we're not just impacting our elderly or the demographic in one way, it's across the board.
Thank you. Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you. I'd just like to add comments to say I very much welcome this also. And it's another example of how seriously we take our corporate plan objectives in this council now. Our corporate plan isn't just empty words. It pushes us to embrace initiatives like this, which are, again, not just empty words. This is us genuinely caring about our community, how it's changing, and the needs of a community, and respecting the fact and acknowledging the fact that one size fits all doesn't work. We have an ageing population, as people have said. That part of our community has special requirements that we need to be conscious of. And again, this is underlining the fact that we are conscious of those things and we're going to do something about it. So I'm very, very happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I take that as seconding the motion? Okay. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I just say that as we focus on older people, it's very important that we, as an authority that provide for planning, understand the great difference between social housing and almshouses. And we need to make sure that a special category still exists for almshouses, because if you pile all the paperwork of being RP providers in housing onto trusts that are basically manned by volunteers, you are pushing that sector out. Whereas if it were made more simple, there would be more almshouses available, and they would help to provide these types of single dwelling homes that are very much going to be a need of the future.
Thank you for your comment. I think that's directed really at the Cabinet Member for Planning and the the planning team in terms of the ongoing work towards a local plan that meets the needs and aspirations of our district, is it?
No, it's really a national issue. The government has got to recognise that almshouses are different and they need not to be lumped in with the registered providers, making that whole chaos of paperwork for local volunteers who are doing their best to provide an alternative form of housing for older people. Because once you get into that big machine, you need masses of people to run an office, just as we do here at SK, and that isn't what almshouses can do. But they are a great alternative if you make sure they're recognised by planning nationally as different.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rayside.
As much as I would love for Councillor Cleaver to second the motion, Councillor Dilks had actually seconded.
I beg your pardon. On the almshouses issue, your point is noted, and I'm sure that all the Cabinet have listened, and as we walk through our journey towards age-friendly communities, that it will be remembered as we go forward. So, proposed by Councillor Rayside, seconded by Councillor Dilks. All those in favour that we become a registered age-friendly community and engage in the necessary work to fulfil the criteria? Yes. Thank you. That's unanimous. Now we move on to items for information. I want to say, first of all, that this morning we were delighted, Councillor Cleaver and myself and Councillor Stokes, to attend the cutting of the sod at the Turnpike Close depot. So we've got through the bureaucracy and we're now on to the digging. In fact, there had been some digging going on there before we cut the sod, which is not to be complained at, but we are on site and we're moving forward. We anticipate the project will take about a year, and delighted that the depot, much needed depot, is now underway. We're also pleased that later this week we will be exchanging handshakes. We will be at the St Martin's Park site with interested parties, and I'm glad to say that project is now moving on in a more tangible way than it has done previously. Yeah, I can read an agenda. Yeah. They were my two items for note, and both good news items. I think the depot and the St Martin's Park, which brings us on to the Cabinet Forward Plan. As I always say, it's a lively document. It could change at any moment. And do we have any comments on it? It's an item for noting only. I see no comments, and so that concludes the formal agenda of the Cabinet, other than the new friendly item of open questions from councillors. We have 4 councillors in the room beyond the Cabinet. Do any of them have any intelligent questions? So, Charmaine.
Yeah, I did discuss this briefly with you before, but I would like to understand, it has been in the media and it is of great concern to our residents. It's actually regarding the environment, and I appreciate Councillor Baker's not here today, but we have got some real issues, not just in my ward, but in the town centre. I suspect not just our town centre, where we have got very narrow pavements, or maybe no paving at all, as I have in some of my roads. Our plethora of bins is actually causing a real hazard to pedestrians, and among other issues. Can we please look at a not one-size-fits-all policy around our bin collections? Can we please look at that as a particular issue? I have been looking at this for months and not making much headway. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have I recognise that neither Mr Wiles nor Councillor Baker is here. Do we have an officer that can respond with confidence? If not, I'm happy to take it offline to the relevant cabinet member and talk. So I'll speak to you, or I'll ask relevant members of staff to speak to you after the meeting about the particular areas that you're talking about in Grantham. Yeah, and also if you can forward me the emails that you sent to Councillor Baker, I'll happily, and copy in the Chief Executive, please, that we'll try and address those problems as soon as we can. Any other questions? Any questions at all? No? Okay, right. So thank you very much all for attending. I'm very glad that we've got through that. It's taken longer than cabinet meetings used to take, but we've had a good, healthy debate around, and I believe we've made some good decisions. So thank you, everybody, for your participation.